kicked out of resort pool. Later turns out they were VIP guests. See what happens next in this video. It was July. The sun in North Carolina was blazing, and families poured into the Hampton Inn in Williamston looking for summer comfort. Among them was Anita Williams-Wright, a proud mother of 2 teenage sons and a young daughter. Anita had made plans for this trip months ago. After months of balancing work, stress, and life, she thought this getaway would be a perfect chance to recharge. She had booked not 1, but 2 rooms at the resort. Paid in full. Check-in was smooth. Bags were unpacked. The kids were laughing and hyped. Everything was going according to plan. So when Anita and her kids changed into their swimwear and made their way to the pool, she expected nothing but joy. The pool sparkled. White and Latino families were already inside. Music played softly from someone's portable speaker. The air was filled with sunscreen and chlorine. It was paradise. Anita scanned her room key, entered the pool gate, and her children jumped in with glee. She found a chair, laid down her towel, and smiled. She pulled out her phone, not to scroll, but to capture a memory. But that moment didn't last. Within minutes of settling in, a hotel employee approached. A white woman, mid-40s, wearing a Hampton Inn polo and holding a clipboard. She didn't smile. She didn't greet. She went straight to Anita and said, "Are you guests here?" Anita was momentarily confused. "Yes, we are. We have 2 rooms. Room keys and all." She pulled out her key card and held it up. The woman narrowed her eyes. "I'll need to know your room number." Now Anita paused. "You just asked if we were guests." "I said yes. Here's my key. Why do you need my room number?" The woman shifted her stance. "We've had people sneak into the pool before. Just need to confirm. You can never be too careful." But Anita noticed something. None of the other guests were being asked. Not the white family with 2 kids in the shallow end. Not the elderly white couple lounging under an umbrella. Only her. Only her black family. She looked around, then back at the woman. "Why are you only asking us?" The woman's tone stiffened. "It's company policy. If you're staying here, you shouldn't have a problem confirming." Anita said again, "I'm not giving you my room number. I've shown you the key card. That should be enough." And that's when the woman walked off, muttering under her breath, and pulled out her phone. Anita didn't know it yet, but she had just been reported. 15 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. Not security guards. Police. Their presence immediately changed the mood. Guests looked up. The pool fell silent. Children stopped playing. Adults whispered. Some got out of the water altogether. Anita sat up. Her heart began racing, but she stayed calm. One officer approached. "Ma'am, we received a call about a possible trespassing situation. Can we talk?" Anita blinked. "Sir, I'm staying here. I have 2 rooms." I showed the employee my key. The officer nodded. "We understand. Do you mind showing some ID?" Anita, aware of her rights, politely refused. "I haven't committed a crime. I'm not obligated to show you ID just because someone made an assumption." The second officer chimed in. "We're just trying to resolve this, ma'am. If we can verify your stay, we can leave." That's when Anita did what many Black Americans have had to learn to do for survival. She pulled out her phone and began to record. "Facebook Live," she whispered to herself. Within seconds, the world was watching. Anita narrated everything. The approach, the questioning, the refusal to accept her key card as proof, and now, the police presence. "I want everyone to see this," she said. "I paid for 2 rooms. I'm with my kids. We're here for a vacation, just like everybody else. But I'm the only one being questioned." The video showed the officers speaking calmly, but with firm insistence. It showed the hotel employee hovering in the background, arms folded. As Anita refused to provide her room number, one officer eventually stepped aside and ran her license plate. Minutes passed. Then he returned. "Ma'am, we verified. You're listed with 2 rooms. We apologize for the inconvenience. There was no trespassing, no threat, no disturbance. It was unfounded." The video caught fire. Within 24 hours, it was shared over 1 million times. Thousands of comments poured in. Hashtags like #PoolWhileBlack, #JusticeForAnita, and #HamptonAndRacism started trending. Outrage grew. Hilton Hotels, the parent company of Hampton Inn, issued a statement. We are deeply sorry for the experience this family had at our property in Williamston. This incident does not reflect the values of our brand. The employee involved is no longer with the hotel. An internal investigation confirmed what Anita had said all along. She was a guest, a VIP, in fact, part of the Hilton Honors program with premium status. Her loyalty to the brand had earned her upgrades, perks, and access. But that day, none of it protected her. Back in their hotel room, Anita sat on the edge of the bed. Her children, once carefree and joyful, now sat silently on their phones, scrolling, confused, hurt. The energy was gone. The moment had been stolen. Her youngest daughter looked up at her with wide eyes. "Mama, why were the police there? Are we in trouble?" Anita's voice cracked, but she stayed strong. "No, baby. We didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people treat us different, but that doesn't mean we are wrong. It means they are." She kissed her daughter's forehead. She had to be strong for them. But inside, the humiliation was boiling. She had paid for this vacation with her hard-earned money. She had chosen this hotel specifically because it was a family resort. She had been loyal to Hilton properties for years. And yet, all of that was erased by one moment of suspicion, one racist assumption. What Anita didn't fully realize in that moment was that her instinct to go live, her decision to record, would become her armor. The video wasn't just a stream. It was documentation, evidence, truth. Social media had become a platform of empowerment for the Black community in America. Where mainstream media failed, Facebook Live, Twitter, and TikTok picked up the slack. In Anita's video, it was undeniable. It showed her calm, respectful, and fully in her rights. It showed the employee rude, dismissive, and unwilling to believe what was right in front of her. And most importantly, it showed disparity. Other guests hadn't been questioned. Other families hadn't had police called. Only hers. Part 8. A History of Pool While Black. This wasn't a one-off. Not by a long shot. Years earlier, in 2018, a video went viral of a white man in North Carolina, dubbed Pool Patrol Paul, who called the police on a black woman for using her community pool. She had a key card. She was a resident, but he insisted on questioning her. In Colorado, a black family was asked to leave a private pool because a white guest felt uncomfortable. In another case, a black boy was told to leave a hotel hot tub while white children were allowed to stay. This pattern is familiar. The setting changes. The excuse shifts. But the underlying issue remains: racial bias in shared public spaces. A pool becomes more than water. It becomes a mirror reflecting the deep inequalities still embedded in society. Hilton Hotels had a crisis on its hands. The apology wasn't enough. People wanted more than words. They wanted accountability, transparency, reform. Anita wasn't the first black guest to experience racism at a Hilton property. And unless changes were made, she wouldn't be the last. Boycotts were threatened. Influencers began speaking out. News outlets picked up the story. And most telling of all, former employees at different Hilton franchises began sharing their own experiences. One wrote, "I worked at the front desk. We were told to be extra cautious when local black guests booked poolside rooms. It was unofficial, but we all knew what that meant." Another posted anonymously, "There's a culture of suspicion toward black families, especially when they're enjoying amenities like pools, business lounges, or executive floors." Hilton responded again. They promised new training, diversity workshops, anti-bias protocols. But for Anita, the damage was already done. Part 10. An unexpected message from corporate. 3 days after the incident, Anita received a phone call. It was from Hilton's corporate guest relations team. "Ms. Williams Wright, first and foremost, we want to sincerely apologize. What happened to you should never happen to anyone." She stayed silent. "We have reviewed the security footage, interviewed the staff, and confirmed everything you stated. You were in the right. Completely." Still no response. The voice continued. "You're actually a VIP guest in our system. Hilton honors elite tier. Your loyalty is deeply valued. We are offering you a full refund for your stay, an additional 1-week vacation at any Hilton property of your choosing, and we'd also like to invite you to consult with us on inclusivity improvements." Now Anita spoke. "So, I had to be harassed, embarrassed, and humiliated for you to realize my worth. There was silence on the line. I want to make something clear, she added. I don't want free nights. I want change. I want that woman fired. I want policies in place so my kids never go through this again. Part 11. The employee is terminated. Hilton quietly confirmed the employee involved in the incident was no longer employed at the Williamston location. No press release, no photo, no statement from the hotel manager. But social media did its job. A leaked post from a staff member revealed the woman had been warned before, twice. Once for questioning a Latino man with tattoos who turned out to be a Navy veteran. Another time for following a black woman down the hallway because she thought she was lost. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern. And this time, it came with consequences. Weeks later, Anita's teenage son posted his own message online. I never understood how racism really felt until that day. I wasn't mad. I was embarrassed. I wanted to disappear. My mom taught us to always speak up, but at that pool, I didn't know what to say. Now I do. It wasn't our fault. It was theirs. The post went viral again. Another reminder that the damage of racial bias doesn't stop at the adult level. Children absorb it. They internalize it. They carry it forward unless something interrupts that cycle. That interruption came in the form of truth-telling, of sharing, of visibility. Anita was invited to speak at a local community center, then at a town hall, then at a national panel on racism in hospitality. She never asked for fame, but the moment demanded her voice, and she gave it powerfully. We have to stop pretending these are isolated incidents. We have to stop asking why people are so sensitive. We need to ask, why do they keep getting mistreated? She urged corporate leaders to go beyond statements. To all the CEOs out there, she said, we don't need diversity brochures. We need diverse behavior. Part 14. A new pool policy across Hilton. 6 months later, Hilton implemented a company-wide update to its pool access policy. No guest will be required to give room numbers to verify pool access unless there is documented cause. Key cards alone will suffice. All verification must be handled uniformly, without regard to race, age, or background. Anita's case had sparked change. Small, perhaps, but real. She had turned her moment of humiliation into a movement of accountability. Anita and her children eventually took that week-long vacation Hilton had promised. This time in Orlando. No problems, no interruptions, just peace. On the final night, her daughter asked, Mom, do you think they know who we are now? Anita smiled. They don't have to know who we are, baby. We know who we are, and that's enough. Because dignity doesn't come from approval. It comes from self-worth. And that's a lesson no pool gate can ever lock out. This was the story of Anita Williams-Wright and her family, just trying to swim, just trying to live, and the resistance they face for doing so while black. But their story is also one of power, of visibility, of refusing to be silenced. Because the truth is, racism doesn't need to wear a badge or shout slurs. Sometimes it just whispers from behind a clipboard. But even whispers can be heard when we speak up. If you believe stories like these matter,